So I have an interaction, and it is someone looking at someone else very seriously, and they say to that person, "Repeat it back to me. What do we never buy at an antique store?" And the person just responds, "Food."
Welcome to the Creative Community Podcast presented by Destination Arete. I'm David.
And I'm Mark. And as brothers, we grew up telling stories together for over 15 years. And as adults, we want to continue telling stories together and invite you into our Brothers Brain Trust.
We started this podcast to tell the beginning of our story, the stories that influenced us as we were getting started, and to continue writing that story together. And the way we do that is by building a community of people who come together to find creative solutions to telling inspirational stories.
Yeah, and we do that through this podcast in interviews with other creative people and also through fun story episodes. And this is one of those fun story episodes. Today, we will be playing one of our favorite games, Half-Baked Stories. And for people who may not know, Half-Baked Stories works like this. We usually invite a guest on, or sometimes David and I just do it, but each of us brings a half-baked idea, an idea that's not fully formed. It's just maybe a kernel. It could be, something that's a big idea, small idea, but it has to do with story. And so we bring that idea to the table, and what we do is we present it to the group, and then we try to figure out, is this the beginning of an idea, the middle of an idea, or the end of an idea in terms of the story? And then we try to we fill in the missing pieces, and we try to come up with a name for it at the end.
We're joined today by one of our friends, Ryan Klein. He was so gracious to come on the podcast back when we first started doing interviews. Like, seriously, we said, all right, we're serious about this 20 and 2020. Ryan happened to be, Mark, driving through my neighborhood, stopped in. I mean, he was coming to my house to spend the night, but I made it sound like he was just like pit stop for a recording, but helped me test out some podcasting equipment that I was still trying to figure out and use, and I've gotten better at. And so we invited him back on to tell stories because he's really good at it. He's got tons of great ideas. And so I'm really excited for people to hear this episode with Ryan Klein. So without further ado, let's kick it over to Ryan with our first half-baked story idea. Ryan Klein has joined us. He is the man that I know that has more story ideas than I do. And that is, and Mark obviously always has more story ideas than I do, but I think that Ryan is the one person I've met that is always just like, well, what if this happened? And I'm always like, I just want to talk to you all day. So
well, I think it's more of a background on like yes-anding. I'm a good yes-ander in like improvisation and stuff. It's just mostly building off of what everybody makes. So this will be fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a rich tradition of yes-anders. I think they originated in the north and then migrated south as they searched for warmer weather and ended up in Florida. So that's the brief geographical history of the yes-anders.
I think we've just found our first half-baked story idea.
All right, good night, everybody.
All right, Ryan, you're going to kick us off here with one of your story ideas that you've brought to the table tonight. So please, I will stop yes-anding and just let you take it away.
Wonderful. So, well, thanks for having me on again. I don't think I acknowledged that aspect of this conversation yet, but it's a pleasure to be back. So much has changed. But anyway, to my half-baked story. This is technically based on a dream I had, which I feel like is where most wild stories come from at some points. So in this story that I kind of put up together, it was the military. Okay, we know it. The military has created two of the first fully humanoid robots, and they train daily to be combat ready and carry out covert operations. They're meant to be like the mercenaries and stuff because they're stronger, faster, more agile because they're robots and stuff. And they train every single day under harsh conditions and everything. And one day during an absolutely normal training exercise, something goes wrong with one of the mechanics or a thing, and one of the robots takes a direct hit. Just absolute malfunction, takes a direct hit. And the other robot goes over to it, and the face mask of this one robot goes up, and it's a humanoid guy's face. And there's a substance running down it. And then the mask goes up of the other one, and it's a humanoid woman's face. And they look at the thing, and they're like, what's on your face? And he feels it, and it's blood. And they're like, what is this? And like, I don't know. And so they find out that they actually aren't humanoid robots. They are straight up cyborgs, and they never knew. And so they go to the director of the, I don't know, a division or whatever this is, and they're like, so
This is
we
cut rate
just learned,
operation.
yeah. And they're like, yeah, the director of whatever this operation is. And they're like, hey, so we just found this out. What's up? We need some explanations here. We thought we were just AIs and whatnot this whole time, but now we're, part human and part robot. What's going on? And the director tells them that they weren't supposed to find out until they were ready, or maybe just never, that they actually were once people who got in terrible accidents and were and they were like mortally wounded, but they were taken and they were converted into these robots to be used by the military. Why, I haven't come up with that part yet, but the part where this is where the kicker, this is actually the part that was really in the dream that I had that made me kind of put this together. They are like, well, we have families. We must have had families. They have to know we're alive when they know that we're okay. And the director looks at them and says, they aren't looking for you because they don't know you're alive. Because they thought that they were dead. Because
so they were in the type of accident where you could lose your memory.
No, yeah, or like, in the process of becoming half robot, half person, they maybe like suppress the memory and stuff. But then they start like, maybe they can start remembering things, or they just demand an explanation and need to know the full story. But it's like,
Mark, is this the beginning of a story or the end of a story or the middle of a story?
I don't know, but the credits read directed by Paul Greengrass and Michael Bay, because it's Jason Bourne meets Transformers, and I'm all
so
here.
funny.
I'm here. Let's see. Is it the beginning, middle, or an end? It does really seem like the beginning of a story. It seems like it's the beginning of something. I can see the training montage. I can see the lack of context, and then us finding out. But
I mean, you really could just show us that there's something different about them, and then have them bleed. Like it could be the first 2 minutes.
Fighting alongside like regular fully human soldiers and stuff, and then sending them out because they could do more, and like, they'll meet halfway, then send the the robots forward to like, secure the target or whatever. I was even thinking that like the next step would be they decided to go and try and find their families anyway. So so the Bourne thing is actually a really good allusion to that, because they would bust out and they would go to find their families, but then they would realize how dependent they were on where they lived, because they learned things like they don't know that they have to like recharge their power cells and stuff every day or whatever. They don't know how to nourish themselves, and they have to like hide the fact that they're like a human head but a robot body, and things like that.
This actually then becomes like a super fun road trip movie where like they're at, like they go to the like, electric car charging station, and they're like, one of them's like, leaning up against something while they're like plugged into their back, and they're getting
like plugged right into their chest.
Right, exactly.
Like, and then like somebody walks by with like a baby, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
Perfectly normal day.
Yeah.
And seeing what it feels
they would
like.
they would try real food, like they would see if they could digest it. It would like, I could see one of them eating like a Snickers and it just gumming up the inside, like really wreaking havoc. And they're like, oh, he thinks he has heartburn.
Or it could be, they might still have like a combination of like human organs and robot organs. So there has that moment of them trying like a burger or something and having like an ethereal moment or something after tasting it, after just having electricity for so long.
Yeah, because it would be a trial and error of like what they could have versus what they could have. So they would need, I don't know, it would be funny if like they had like they made friends with a mechanic and a chef, and so like they're like helping them figure out which parts are the
or like a mechanic or like an IT guy / like a technician who also like is just a cook for fun, you know?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Or
It's like one of its side hustles, and they befriend him or something. That would be hilarious.
they can have powdered versions of foods, but they can't add water.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
that's good.
So
That's
like
actually not bad. Yeah.
they're like powdered milk. They're like, this stuff is great, and people are just
Yeah.
like walking by them in the grocery store, like, you're supposed to add water, and they're like,
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
eating the like brownie mix, just like
Yeah.
straight,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
that is so funny.
because
It's like
the
they just
heat inside of them would just cook whatever
yeah.
the
Oh, man.
mixture is. I'm wanting to know, like, they thought that upgrading to iOS 15.2 was bad. Wait
Mhm.
until their like operating system starts to, have errors and things. So then they're trying to find like some way to. That's why they need that IT guy to hack into the
Mhm.
mainframe to download the
Yeah.
latest version, because then they realize that there's another one following them. The way, if we're going back to the Jason Bourne thing, there's somebody out there
Mhm.
following them, and they're just a little bit advanced, and they only get out of it because a human helps them or something like that. And so then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, we're way behind this guy. If we're going to stay alive and find what we need
Mhm.
to, we've got to get some sort of update going.
Yeah, the part I never really dived too deep into, obviously, because this is half baked, but like, is do they actually go and find their parents and their families and stuff? Are they still around? Did they
Yeah.
like, do they find them? What did they have no families to begin with? Was it all a lie, a cover up? Was this just a test all along to see how they would do on their own?
Yeah. I don't know.
No.
For some reason, I want like one of them. This is terrible. I'm a terrible
Oh.
person. I want one of them to find their family, or like a sibling to find them, and they've been looking for them. And in the other like the other one, he like goes back, and it's like Lotso, where there's like a replacement, and and like
Oh,
he
darn.
there's like an evil and a good, where like one, because the family love them, they're like, I'm great, but the other one, is rogue. And
That's the
That's
government
yeah.
part of it. They died, and the government just stuck someone in their place and put a bandage around their head and said,
oh
Yeah, the age-old
So-
cure of any wound or head injury.
but whenever
just to
they
wrap
get
around the
home,
head.
there's a lookalike of them there.
because they were
Yeah.
because it
And
was
it could
government-
be-
Yeah, the government is watching people that they want to
Mhm.
be the next cyborgs. And
It's
they
like
have
Spartans.
people
Yep.
training. They have people training to be their replacement as soon as that person goes down. And they've indoctrinated this person that they're going to be Sam Smith. As soon as Sam Smith gets in a wreck, like, then you're
Yeah.
now Sam Smith for the rest of your life. And like,
And then like one of them could be just about to knock on the door, but then he hears a noise and looks in the crack of the curtains
Mhm.
and sees themselves in there, and it's like, what? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And then maybe the other one has a regular family that doesn't have a replacement for him because they just accepted that he died or whatever. And maybe in the end they'll like choose to stick together because the other one doesn't have a family or whatever. Or maybe
Right.
the other guy's family will accept them both. Who knows?
Right, that's the thing. I could see them kind of going. It could be like an adoption thing, or
Yeah.
it could also just be like a fun, like, found family story.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
like they just kind of go through, and it turns out like either they never had families, or it's I'm trying to think how that would be a thing. But if it is the whole government idea of like it's a test, where they're like, there is no record. This was a test to see how you guys would respond to the training.
Yeah.
We didn't expect you to like, run all over,
Mhm.
Northwest Illinois, just like, wreaking havoc and burning gas
Yeah.
stations.
Burning everything down.
Yeah.
Nice.
all right, I like it. I think we've gotten it. I think we've fleshed out, like, this is actually kind of like the first episode of a series in my mind.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know that it's necessarily a movie. It could be a first book. It could be the first book in a
Mhm.
series. It could be.
I contemplated making this into a graphic novel for a while. That was one thing I wanted to do. That's why I have so much like thought up of it already, because I was trying to flesh out a story years ago about it, but I never.
I say keep contemplating it.
Yeah.
All right. What
I'll
the
do that.
last thing we do here on Half Baked Stories, we try to give it a title.
Oh, so it's obviously it has to be, because like I guess is the tone of it going to be like quirky coming of age mixed with like cyber something, so it's going to have like a pun on a technical term.
Mhm.
You
It
know?
is.
Yeah.
Oh, let me think.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
In search of motherboard. No, that's stupid.
Oh, that's actually pretty funny. Okay, that's something.
Man.
Yeah.
Let's think.
It's something 2.0 or like it's not mirror image, but it's like
right. Fractured families.
It's just in binary.
It's 00111010101.
Right.
Coming to a theater near you.
Yeah. I think it could be called like Mission Intelligence instead of Mission Impossible or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do
kind of lean to that spy aesthetic.
Control Escape.
Oh, that's good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Or Command Escape or something like that. You know.
Control.
It could
Command Shift 4.
Right. It could be called Screenshot. Yeah.
Screenshot.
Oh, that's actually pretty funny. It could be called Screenshot.
Screenshot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I like Screenshot, but
I kind of like Command, whatever it was. You said Control, whatever
Control
you
Escape.
said a second ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Control, but escaping it, but like whatever Control Escape would do to your computer. Don't press it now, anyone listening, because we don't be held responsible for. All right. So I think
working title Control Escape.
Yeah, that's great. It just needs to be a working title so we can
working title.
Put a tiny bow on it. So
yeah. Nice.
All right. So this story, I'm gonna tell it to you guys, and then at the end there's a surprise reveal unless you figure it out along the way. But
I'm not very smart, so we'll see if that happens.
There are, in my mind, this is a very this idea hasn't even been near the oven. Like it's very cold. But in my mind, there are we always see like little white ghosts, right? Whenever we see ghosts. So I want blue, orange, green. Think Among Us, but they're ghosts, and there's only like 4 or 5 of them. Because I always love, Mark can attest to this. Whenever
this better not be a joke about Pac-Man, I swear.
See, that's just it. I came up with this story idea, and I had it almost fleshed out, and then I realized it was just Pac-Man.
Yeah.
But I still want to go through this exercise because I want people to realize that even if you come up with a story that someone else has done, finish your own story idea, because you may be able to find a twist along the way or something that helps you. But
and there hasn't been any interesting takes on Pac-Man story-wise before. I think this has a lot of potential.
Well, I mean, there's Miss Pac-Man, but and then I remember from the dark ages of the internet back in 2011 when I was using Facebook religiously. That tells you how old I am. I remember seeing a picture of the little ghosts in Pac-Man running from a monster that was Pac-Man, but he had lots of teeth drawn in, but what I want is just a little buddy like group movie or group, comic strip about 3 or 4 little different colored ghosts. Think We Bare Bears, but with ghosts, great show.
Yeah.
But Mark can attest to this. Whenever I want to tell a story, I want there to be like 400 characters because I'm just I'm just like, the more characters, the better. And Mark's like, but if they're all flat, then they'll all fall down.
If you can balance them all decently well and have their stories all interconnected and in an honorable way, you might create the greatest story ever.
But I'm thinking like Spooky University or like Ghoul U or
I mean, the more we dive into the ghost aspect, we have to be careful not to make it Ghostbusters.
Right. But I want it to be I want it to be about, like, I'm thinking like Monsters University, but there are little ghosts floating around and they're, or they're going to school, or maybe we just go to a completely different realm and the ghosts are doing whatever ghosts do. And I don't know. I really, like I said, this has not been near the oven. It's just 4 little it's a blue, it's a red, it's a yellow, it's a green little ghost.
Does Pac-Man fit into this story narrative in any way?
I mean, it would be fun if it was kind of like, how Wicked is like the origin story of the witches from Wizard of Oz. It'd be great if it was like, but it would end so sad because they would be trapped in this room only to be released to like try and like, I don't know, because I guess they are the bad guys in Pac-Man unless he eats one of those little things and then they can get eaten.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like that's why I'm not sure if it's I don't know where it goes. Like I would almost rather it be kind of lighthearted and fun, and they're just kind of like,
So
Ghoul Central College, GCC or something like that.
GCC. If we're thinking about it from
That was not a joke about anybody else's college here. I promise.
Yeah, if
I didn't even think about
anybody has an association of anything that fits those acronym letters, we are sorry.
I'm so sorry. I really did not.
Please do not sue.
All the Grand Canyon College people are just vastly upset.
Like, how dare you poke fun at our Canyon College?
But is this the middle of a story? Is it the end of a story? I don't even know. Is it just the?
I think it is I think it's the middle of the story, because when you alluded to Monsters University, it made me think of the scene where Mike and Sully accidentally go through the door to the real world, into like that cabin in the woods, but not that cabin in the woods. And they're being like hunted down by like the actual like park rangers and stuff. And it's kind of like, oh man, for a second there. It made me think of that. Like, what if in the middle, like the beginning of the story is the four ghosts, whether they be ghosts or maybe like aliens or something who are in ghostly form or something like that. They are in an education where they're learning something like that. And they maybe they're on like a field trip or something to a local place, and they take like, they have, how it is, you have the one who's like, forget the rules, let's go over the caution tape,
It
and
could be
have this
a summer internship story. They all got the same internship.
Or maybe they could be like camp and they're like on a dare or something, and then they come across like the Pac-Man or something. I don't know.
That would be great if it was ghosts at camp instead
of ghosts at camp telling people stories.
Yeah, they're telling people stories. That would be amazing. They're around the campfire, and and they're all sitting there, and of course there's like the big ghost who's like, he has like tight shorts on for no reason, and he's like sitting there, and he's like, and then he's got like a flashlight under his mouth, the person
and it's just like diffusing straight out of it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's just going straight through him, hitting the tree behind him. And but the ghost, like maybe the old guy, he's like a very experienced ghost, and he's like, I haunted a Victorian home for 30 years, and then he's like, and there was this older woman who would always come up the stairs and scare me, and then like, because it's from their perspective, we're occupying like their homes, and so they're just as scared as we are.
There was this guy who would come up the stairs every night. When once we saw past each other in the hallway, he would give out this deathly scream that frightened me to my core, and then he'd fall down the stairs. I don't know why he would do such a thing.
Have you ever felt really warm inside, like a human went through you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's like your stomach's turned inside out.
Exactly. Yeah. Makes you want to eat something.
For some reason, if we're thinking about like the funny twist would be if it's like Pac-Man or whatever. It just made me think like the Legend of the Pac-Man, and it was like a guy, a dad on a family road trip being like, we got to pack all the supplies. He's like, we got to pack all the camp gadgets and everything, and like perpetually trying to put them all in the car.
He's got the huge backpack with the fanny pack and everything, cling, everything's clanging.
And he's like a mountaineer or whatever. It's like a Pac-Man, the Pac-Man and stuff.
He has squeaky shoes, and his squeaky shoes go wow.
Right.
That's genius.
And he's always like eating because he's got these granola bars, but his kids keep like dropping crumbs, and so he's constantly picking the crumbs up and sticking them in his big mouth, and and then
that would actually work out really well if the goal was to not get run into by a human, because then that would like reveal that you were a ghost or something like like, and there are only certain times when you could get after the humans and trick them or something.
Right. So it's like
every now and then.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like a live action remake or a live action version
of
Pac-Man, but the ghosts are at camp, and there's a man in the woods with his family who is like walking around with tons of stuff.
It's the corn maze. The corn maze.
The corn maze.
It's just a fall field trip, and they're in the corn maze, and that's how we get the little like.
Yeah. Or if it is in the mountains, he could just be a guy who's like a hiker, like a like a trail,
all the switchbacks could be all the trails.
He wears a bright yellow coat so he doesn't get lost or get forgotten.
which is totally hilariously ironic because it's like, you know, in the woods, it's Bigfoot. He's a big hairy guy, but this one is a perfectly clothed person with all kinds of supplies walking around. And it's like he has large mantis like pincers for hands, and it's like his walking sticks like stabbing the ground and stuff. Oh, that's fantastic.
Do we have a name? Is it just before Pac-Man or
Pac-Man Begins? No, sorry.
Pac-Man Begins. I was trying to avoid that whenever I'm like, it's the Pac-Man, you know. Oh, darn, we can do this.
Pac-Man Begins, but
why is this the hardest part? Because it has to be ghost related is the title, because
Right.
Pac-Man's just a part of it. And maybe they could be like, there's no such thing as the Pac-Man. And it is a made up story, but they wander off into the wood, deep into the woods, you know, where the older ghost says the Pac-Man resides, you know, because there's always the scared one. There's the pompous one. There's the nerd. And then there's the girl, you know, and then the four character types in these kind of movies, you know, and they all go out together, and then they find just like, see, Pac-Man's not real, and then it's like clang, 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 and then he just comes out and he's like, this is a great spot to camp and everything, and then they just see him dump his pack and all this stuff falls out and they freak out. Oh, that's fantastic. Anyway, the title. That's where we were.
yeah,
Ghost camping.
I really want it to have a really long name like movies used to have in the 90s, like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, or My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Like,
Right.
I want it to be like, you know,
human stories to tell in the daytime.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
Human
That's funny.
stories to tell in the daytime.
It's perfect because
I like
you could
that.
have like multiples of those, because you could
Right.
have, because I thought of a completely different version of this. It's like Jumanji but with ghosts. It's like the four people find something that turns them into ghosts and then turns them back. It's like a Stranger
Yeah.
Things type portal
Nice.
experience. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Human stories
Working
to tell in the
title,
daytime.
human stories to tell in the daytime.
I love it. All right, it's an idea.
Perfect.
We'll put it back in the oven. We'll see what happens. Mark,
Mm.
give us your half-baked idea.
Okay, mine is I think it's just the flour. It's,
yeah.
it's in the bowl.
I thought
The
you
dry
meant like an
ingredient.
actual like plant.
No,
flower,
no,
like
no,
the
no.
Flower.
This is a
Yeah.
pretty fully formed idea here, Mark.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen a
it's
flower.
Is it
fully
blooming?
grown.
Yeah, I
It's
think
bloomed and everything. The bees,
So-
they're everywhere.
So I have an interaction, and it is someone looking at someone else very seriously, and they say to that person, "Repeat it back to me. What do we never buy at an antique store?" And the person just responds, "Food."
That's the end of the story.
It's an
That's
ending.
the-
Yeah, I think
that's
it
the
is an
ending.
ending. Yeah.
When they get out at the end, that's what they, after the whole shenanigans of whatever this story is about happens, they walk out and then they're just like, remember what we never buy in an antique store? The food.
Yeah.
And then they just keep going.
See, I'm imagining that it wasn't. I'm sure that you could take this many ways. It could be spoiled food. It could be a container that's antique that had food in it. I'm imagining they bought something the owner was selling that
Mhm.
dripped onto something that then they tried to cover up, that then led
Mm.
them to falling into a wardrobe, that then led them to this alternate dimension, that then led to them fighting for their lives. And the whole time they're saying, we should have never bought that nacho tray.
Okay.
You know. But
Or-
Ryan has now struck.
I'm sorry.
And-
I just had this. That made me think of something else. If there's like a you know how some like cake dishes or whatever will have like the glass cover for displays and everything. What if there's like a display dish with a glass cover and inside, and it's clearly old. It's all clouded and muddied up and like cracked and junk, but inside is a perfectly preserved sandwich. It's a
Okay.
perfectly preserved sandwich, and they're like, you know, the old creepy antique man's like, whatever you do, don't touch the sandwich and all this stuff. He's like, who cares about rules? I'm gonna
It's
eat
just
the
a 10-year-old
sandwich.
McDonald's cheeseburger.
Yeah. But it didn't
Like those
age.
experiments.
But like he opens the thing and goes for the sandwich, and it unleashes like a curse or something, or like a Jumanji, and then
A
or like
sandwich.
a sandwich, actual witch comes out.
All the dust from on all of the antiques formulates
man,
into this.
I would die in that situation. As an asthmatic, I would perish.
The old man passes out. He is asthmatic.
And he's the only one who knows how to put her back.
Exactly.
Oh.
They have to find an antique
inhaler to revive him.
They're searching.
So funny.
They find someone's suitcase that says Paris on it. They're like battling this sand thing that's trying to attack them.
Maybe it's the type of antique store that has a whole wing of like random objects that have stuff in them, and if you open them, then like they might find something useful, or find an old like warrior or something who knows how to put
there's an entire crew of pirates that comes charging through. Who released us? We serve you,
Yeah. This is
it's like Night in the Museum, but very scaled down to the antique store.
Lightning has just struck my brain.
Very a lot more grounded.
Right.
No, I like this. I like this idea a lot, though.
No, that's great.
It originally came from the phrase was, I had an idea for, I wanted to make a TV show about people who all worked in an antique mall. And I wanted guest celebrities to be the people who owned the booths that rented space in it. And they would come in every once in a while, and it would be fun. It would have funny interactions with people. But I was like, this would be a funny TV show. But the only funny line I had from it was two characters looking at each other and saying, what do you never buy at an antique store? The food. So
that's funny.
I like that it has turned into this a lot. I specifically, I didn't want to say the other part of the idea because I was like, they're going to come up with something way better.
I don't know. You could even make it like the cold open or whatever of every episode. It's like you go to a celebrity booth, and it's like something in there, and you're like, oh look, it's the John Bernthal booth. It's like, oh look, his antique grandfather's muddy boots from World War I, or something like that. I don't know. That's not funny at all. I don't know why I said that.
But you're close, because one of the episodes could be an MRE, and they'd be like, of all the food we could buy at an antique store.
That's true.
Right.
This would be the one we could buy, right? And they'd be like, but we know the rule is, like, he told us before he sold us the store, don't, like, I don't know.
The MRE is what unleashes the person who can put the witch back in her place.
Oh, there we go.
And
it's the one food
back
you
in her
could
place,
buy.
I mean, captured in the bold dome thing. I feel like that was some weird semantics.
No, we got it. I got it.
Okay, good. Just double checking.
What's the name of this, Mark? Does it have a name?
I don't know.
Leftovers?
Leftovers is good.
Leftovers is good.
Yeah.
Or it's like leftover. It's like leftover heirloom, or like it needs to have a play on food, but also the antique idea. Like
One Man's Trash. That's what a title I thought of, but
the word antiquities just keeps
one man's
in my
trash
brain.
is another man's lunch.
Yeah, one man's trash.
Oh man.
We could just call it Another Man's Lunch. That's a good title. Another Man's Lunch.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. It really, the hard part is it's really only funny in context. We'd have to find, I still think Leftovers is closer to letting people know like what this is about, but.
Oh man, why is this the hardest part of this?
Yeah, just sitting here waiting for an apostrophe.
I know the audience is loving this.
Oh, we'll cut it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We'll shorten this part.
I'm like, the audience is gonna love this silence.
Just turning their radio knobs up.
Yeah, we're giving them an opportunity. Yeah, surely there must be saying something.
Yeah.
We're giving them an opportunity to come up with a name as well.
Right.
Yeah. If you have a name, say it now.
Yeah, all together now, no matter where you are, what time of day. On the count of 3, we all say the name we're thinking as loud as we can so we can hear it.
The old youth pastor evangelist.
Yeah.
Like, everybody tell me your name at the same time.
And then they're like, that's so many names. But,
all right.
Man.
Go back to that another man's trash, because that
Right.
I'm
Another
sorry,
man's trash is another man's
Mark
lunch.
took a drink and it made a very loud sound. And it
Oh,
got
I'm
me.
so sorry.
No, it's okay. It wasn't bad. It was like, "Quack," and it just
Yeah.
made me laugh very hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm a child, man.
So I'm just gonna start throwing out words. Ready?
Okay.
So antiques, heirlooms, old
Yes.
stuff, vintage,
inherited,
inherited, attic, antique mall,
thrifting.
thrifting is good.
Secondhand.
Secondhand.
Secondhand sorcery.
Secondhand sorcery. Secondhand sandwich is another good name.
Secondhand sandwich.
Oh, that's it right there.
Yeah.
That's it right there. Secondhand
Secondhand sandwich. That's perfect. I
Yeah.
love
Secondhand sandwich store.
Mhm.
Nice.
Okay,
Oh,
we got it.
Great. Yeah, working title, secondhand sandwich.
Perfect. I can
Nice.
visualize it now. It's definitely a web series, if not more.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, bring us home here. You've got one more idea for us. We've kicked around 3 of them now. We've come up with titles.
Yeah.
Let's see. I can't even remember all the titles we got.
There was wow, I already forgot the one we just said. Secondhand sandwich.
Secondhand sandwich.
Control Escape.
Control escape.
And human stories.
Human stories to tell in the daytime.
All right, so bring us home here. Number 4. Here
All
we go.
right. Now this is my weird one that got a very interesting response from my wife when I pitched it to her yesterday to make sure it was okay to actually talk about this. It is another similar to, I know it's going to be so disappointing when I say it probably. It's similar to that idea that Mark was saying, where he just had that kind of repeating thing in his head of like a punchline or whatever, except for this one. And if any audience member who is listening or watching is extremely bothered by existential crises, you might want to take a break, because this is going to get a little heavy. So I just had this story idea of a guy. This was like a short story in my head. A guy is at a place, don't know what he's doing there or what kind of place it is, but he gets like hurt in a way that causes him to be paralyzed, that he just can't move. He can't move, but his mind is completely active still. But something about the place he's at or whatever causes some, or even like how he hurt himself, like and again, I'm so sorry, this is probably going to change everyone's perception of things I think of, but his body ages and decays, but his mind remains intact, and he's just there and observes and can't do anything. And it's like an inner dialogue the entire time, like maybe thinking about his life, reflecting on his existence or whatever, until eventually he's literally just a skeleton that has an active brain inside of his skull still. And
So
that's all I got.
Is he on display somewhere? Is he a traveling exhibit?
The way I see it is he's kind of just like in a place where like no one may find him. It's very unlikely anyone will find him there. Like he fell, had a
wall, or
he like had a fall or something, or stuck in like the jungle or whatever, or in an old like ruin or something.
Is he observing things like other people, or is he just observing nature or buildings?
Yeah, it could be that. Like it could start with him like processing his situation, and then it could be him like accepting his situation, and then just observing the changes of the world around him, remarking to animal friends who like come and visit him all the time or something or whatever. I don't know. But yeah.
Is it would be fun for him to be, sorry, it's not fun. But if he was trapped in somewhere like in a wall or like a elevator shaft of like an airport or something, and he could watch lots of people, that would be really interesting, because you would see repeat. It would kind of be like there's like stuck in airport movies, but like you would see repeat people come through. He would watch people grow up, people come in and out. Or it could be like he could be trapped in like the wall of an apartment where he's watching just one family just grow up and
that would be an interesting spin on the fact that like while they all age and change, he has gotten to a point where he remains the same.
Right.
So it's kind of reminiscent of this one movie called Ghost Story, where Casey Affleck has a wife and they live in a house, and then he gets in a car accident and dies. I know this episode's coming out around Christmas, so pardon the morbidity. but he is a ghost for the rest of the movie. He's literally a guy in a sheet with like holes, and he just is in the house for the rest of the movie as the house changes and new people move in and time progresses and stuff. It's a very interesting movie. Highly recommend. But it's something similar to that, where he like has no choice but to just be in the same spot and observe.
Okay.
So I want to go back to, I know I'm selfish, but this person is like a pharaoh, and he is on top of the world. And so he goes out and does something that only a god could do and gets paralyzed. And then they assume that he is going to die. So they just prop him up in the palace, and he just observes as this kingdom that he built completely forgets about him. So then he's brought completely to his lowest. He gets put into a tomb. He just is stuck with his thoughts for thousands of years. He gets pulled out of the tomb and then displayed all over the world, thinks he's gotten back to the top, but then there's an interaction or something in front of him that helps him realize that he's once again nothing. And then he ends up, at the Cairo Museum of ancient whatever.
Things from Egypt.
Yeah, probably.
I like this a lot. This is much more existential. It's much more very cool. What would be for this character the resolution to all of this? Would he need to be put out, like to be dead,
you would
to be
have
gone?
You'd have to somehow show that the museum was built where he first broke his neck or something. And so now he's on display there forever as this, he's actually filling a purpose now because people are being educated about something. They exhume his body and study the spine. I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
There'd have to be something that's where he tries this thing and gets paralyzed and gets put on display, then goes through thousands of years of change, and he's back there in this museum or something.
Does he have any way to communicate?
That's
Ryan,
the thing that
No.
So how without communication does he affect the story? Or is that's why I kind of had him observe, because then the stories are just the people and we're watching through his eyes, gaining his knowledge. But
you guys definitely took a lot more, dare I say, hopeful of a direction with this story, because mine was literally just pure accident. This happens to him. No logical explanation, and he's just there. And his body just decays as time progresses, and his mind is forever aware. And then he just remarks about his existence, and then just the story ends.
Keep that, because it'd be hilarious if he's remarking out loud and the viewer can hear him, but the people in the same room as him can't. Because the grave robbers are like, "What's this?" And he's like, "It's my chamber pot. Leave it." And they're like, "Well, we'll just take it." And then the little boy's like, "Is this guy important?" He's like, "I'm the king of Egypt." And she's like, "No, he's just a dead person, And he's like, but I was important." And
then a dog comes by and takes his femur or something.
Yeah. But the story could be about how there are people in your life who only you can listen to. And so you as the viewer are actually listening to this man who has no other person to talk to. And it's your job to go tell his story.
That could be an honestly genuine way to end. You know, it's I mean, there's no way that it could get written down. Mark, you good?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
See, I knew this story was a risk. Oh man. But
what's the name of it?
All right, so we've got skeleton puns we can make, mindfulness puns we can make.
I just want it to be called Big Brain Time.
Big Brain Time. Oh man.
Observing time. Me and my thoughts. Intrusive thoughts.
We can't do Requiem for a Dream. That's a thing that exists.
Right. It would be some sort of Greek phrase or something. Opus of magnesium or something.
Right. Opus of magnesium, precisely. Or if we are going the more fun route of him being taken and be like, "Stop touching me and all my stuff," or whatever, we could definitely pick his classic catchphrase. "Hey, stop touching me and all of my stuff." But,
I want you to voice him.
Yeah, you have to play we'll get someone like Paul to be the actual like body character, but you have to do
perfect.
the voice. No, I think what if it was okay, so that's the lighthearted route, but I want to come back and be like a little more serious. Like, what if it's something like like an eternity of existence or something like that. Like
or just existence.
Yeah.
Or like if it was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, it would just literally be called Exist. Or like Remain or something like that.
Oh, Remains?
Remains.
Or non-existent or unheard, you know.
Yeah. Or like Existing Remains or something.
The brain remains.
No one's listening.
No one's listening. That hits pretty hard.
Yeah. Oh, I like that though, because that's perfect. It's like a student film. Like Ryan gets up there with his turtleneck and his glasses, and afterwards,
and my scarf.
He's like, "Did anyone like it? I bet you didn't even listen."
You didn't even.
And then he just
it.
like sulks on.
You didn't even get it.
Yeah, it's like too big for even you to understand.
Based on a true story.
Right. Yeah.
This one time I was sitting in my room.
I just really want
my roommate didn't even know I was there.
I just really want it to be actually a movie about this dude airing it in a theater, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's like a film festival. He like gets up to talk about it afterwards, and the lights in the theater come up and no one's there. No one came to see it. And he's just
That's fantastic. No, and then it fades out and it cuts back and it's actually the skeleton just imagining himself doing it. But like, that'd be hilarious.
He's there alone in the theater. Someone comes in, turns the projector off, and he goes, "Stop touching me and all of my stuff."
Yeah. And then it's like, roll credits.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
Awesome. Well,
I'm happy this went the direction it did. I was very worried it would like really bring the mood down a little bit, but yeah.
Oh, come on. That's what we're here for.
Nice.
Pull you out of your pit.
Yeah, my pit of despair.
Keep you from being trapped inside your own brain.
That's true. Like the skeleton.
Yep. Like the skeleton.
Yeah. Wow.
I enjoyed this so much. Ryan,
this is a lot of fun.
Before we cut the recording off, tell people where they can find more of you and your half-baked ideas.
Well, I will not disclose my home address for legal purposes. However, the best place people can find me is on Instagram at, let me make sure I actually say my username correctly, Ryan Kleinicus, and that's with one S at the end.
Thank you so much to Ryan for coming on the podcast to do Half-Baked Stories with us. That was so much fun. I think I'm about to lose my voice. I laughed so hard. I cried. All the emotions in that episode. So it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Ryan. If you want to follow him on Instagram, you can do that at Ryan Kleinicus with one S, and that is where you can follow him. And if you bump into him, tell him the Creative Community Podcast sent you.
Yeah, follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Google Play, Amazon, YouTube. We post full episodes on YouTube for free. And a lot of times that means that the artists that we interview share some of their art, and you get to actually see them talking about it. So I recommend you checking that out if you like kind of the visual side of things. So we are Destination Arate on there, or you can search the Creative Community Podcast, and you can subscribe so that whenever we release a new episode, whether it's an interview or a story exercise like this one, you're in the know.
Yeah. And you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Destination Arete, ARETE. And that is how you can stay in touch with us to get notifications about new episodes that are coming out, who the artists are that we're talking to, and creative people like that, or whether it's a fun story episode. So that'll help you there. We also just post updates about, where we're going with the brand, what we're doing. And if you want to be the first to know about those things, you can subscribe to our newsletter by sending an email to destinationarate@gmail.com. That is a really fun resource because you get like the full roster of episodes that will be coming out in the future. We let those people know in the newsletter before anyone else. So you can peruse those, figure out who you want to listen to. So you can earmark that, maybe go look them up ahead of time, give them follows on social and stuff so they can be in your feed ahead of time before the episode even comes out. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with either another story episode or another interview. We'll see you then.